All right. Will you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Mark Myles, and I'm running for District Attorney for Oklahoma County. Am I looking at you? Or?
Yeah, you can look at whoever you want to. You can look at us or whatever you want to do. So, how will you do things better than Prater?
Well, I'm not running against Prater. I think that's important for people to understand. But I am running for some things. I'm running to try to make the transition to not putting everybody in prison, which Oklahoma, as you know, is one of the top 3 states for incarceration. We bounce around between 1 and 3. I think right now we're 3. And my catch line is I want to be the #1 state for diversion programs instead of the #1 state for incarceration. And incarceration takes 2 forms. You've got people who go to prison, and you've got people who are stuck in a jail awaiting their case to be disposed of. And a pretty large percentage of the people in jail can't get out, mostly because they can't afford their bonds.
Right.
Now, there's some people who are violent, who are charged with serious offenses that their bonds should be higher. But we need to make bonds reasonable, affordable, and attainable for these people so that they can get out and we can not experience the issues that we've had with the jail as a consequence. So it's kind of a 2-pronged approach.
What about the jail? How do you feel about the bond for the new jail?
Well, I haven't taken a position one way or the other.
You haven't?
I have lots of information about it, but there's no doubt that we need something, okay? I will say that. We run the risk of maybe federal intervention coming in and costing taxpayers more money than what they proposed for the jail at this point. On the pro side, we know what the cost is supposed to be. We don't know if that's the final cost, but we know what the cost is supposed to be. It's not supposed to impact property taxes. If we have federal intervention, then we run the risk of something that impacts our property taxes down the road.
Right.
So those are kind of some of the serious issues, and it's going to take time to build it regardless. What I will say is that I think my proposal, and I've talked to some people at CJAC who's very supportive of my position with regards to trying to alleviate the pressure in the jail by getting more people out. I think that will go a long way toward addressing some of the issues and maybe buy us some time to actually fix the problem instead of the senses that people don't really know what's going on. And I think that's going to be a problem for the people who are really, really behind it. Either way, I've got to live with it, and if I'm elected as the next DA, then I've got to deal with the potential lawsuits that will arise as a consequence of what's happened there. And I know the county's paid a significant amount of money to people that's confidential, that we don't know what it is, but as a consequence of some of the things that have happened.
So you don't have a yes or a no?
I don't want to be the person who says vote no or vote yes.
I'm the person that says vote no.
Well, and I understand that and I appreciate that, but I want everybody to make an informed decision.
Right.
And I don't want them to point the finger at me and say, you're the reason why the jail didn't
pass.
I
can see that.
Or you're the reason that the jail did pass.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's fair for me to say, I know we have a problem. I have some solutions that will help fix the problem.
Yeah.
And we just need to see what happens, and we'll know in a week.
Yeah. What is your view on the death penalty?
Well, I think we should have a moratorium on the death penalty. As you are probably aware, somebody like Julius Jones, who came pretty close to being put to death, I've looked at some of the evidence in his case, and I know prosecutors don't like to admit that they made a mistake. Based on what little I've seen of the evidence, I think there's some issue with regards to whether or not he's guilty that says if we had killed him, we would never get to end a job in terms of fixing it. And the world is rife, and Oklahoma's probably rife with people who've been executed years ago, only to find out later that they might not have died. So I've called for a moratorium. Richard Glossop was another example that was in the news about a week ago.
Yeah.
And they said, he couldn't be the person who did this based upon all of the evidence. Now, his case is still winding through the court system, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
That's great. You said you would. My next question was, how will you reduce incarcerations in Oklahoma County? You were saying about the diversion programs.
So I've called actually for a new diversion program that we don't have. I think a new diversion program is coming, but I don't know what the nature of it is. But I'm calling for a domestic violence diversion program. We have in Oklahoma County 7 diversion programs essentially. We have drug court and DUI court counts as 1. We have a veterans court that counts as 1. We actually have 2 veterans courts. There's a veterans diversion and then there's a veterans treatment. So that's So we're at 1, 2, 3. We have a mental health court that gets us to 4. We have 2 different female diversion programs, so that gets us to 5 and 6, and then we have community sentencing. So there's 7 programs now that are underutilized. We're sending some people to prison who are actually eligible for some of the diversion programs, and if we can fix that problem,
right.
And there's statutory reasons why some people can't get into diversion programs, but community sentencing is almost always an option. So that fixes one part of the incarceration thing, and then of course I've talked about trying to do a better job with the bonds to make them more affordable. And I think bondsmen like the concept of making bonds affordable. You know,
right.
less money at risk. And if there's more people bonding out, you know, with less money at risk, the numbers probably add up, and it's working out probably ahead. They're doing quite well right now, I think. So
that's great. Will you hold the governor and his cohorts accountable?
The district attorney in Oklahoma County is uniquely positioned
right.
to address corruption in the state. So the mechanism for doing that is you can have a grand jury. Those are secret, but you can do investigations through the grand jury process. And because the capital is within Oklahoma County, we will have the opportunity to go do some things if we think there's a definite need to do that. And I know people are concerned about what the governor's doing, but the important thing is for people to understand that the district attorney in Oklahoma County plays a role
right.
in investigating corruption. And if we have valid allegations of corruption, we will certainly investigate.
That was all my questions. Anybody else have a question?
I think that was.
Did anybody join?
Marcus just joined. Marcus, did you have a question for Mark Myles, DA candidate? Can you even hear us?
Oh,
You should have one more question.
someone said, how does he respond to his opponents saying she has more experience to do the job?
I have more relevant experience than she has. She was a prosecutor in federal court as an assistant U.S. attorney. I will tell you, having worked with a postal inspector, for one, that generally the cases they bring to the U.S. attorney are basically signed, sealed, and delivered. All they have to do is walk into court basically and say, you want to go to trial, but here's the goods. And oh, by the way, if you go to trial, you're probably going to get more time. So for 25 years she did that. I think only for the last 7 years has she been working somewhat in state court, and I think the balance of what she's been doing in state court has been on the defense side, for one, doing the Innocence Project, which I have no problem with because she's doing good work there. But I've been a prosecutor or defense attorney in state court for 14 years, almost 15 years.
I didn't see that on your website. Did you have it on your website?
You have to look, but it's there.
It should be like in bold.
Big, yeah. I'm an experienced prosecutor. I'm an experienced defense attorney. I think the best district attorneys, the best prosecutors have done both sides. So I have more experience, more relevant experience than she does. And the cases that we get at the state level, you know, with the investigative agencies that we have to use, aren't always as good as what you get on the federal side. So it's not necessarily going to be easy. So the answer to that is I have more relevant experience.
Okay.
And the question you didn't ask, Oklahoma's a trigger state. Everybody knows that.
Right.
Probably tomorrow, Roe v. Wade, because they extended the calendar for their decisions until tomorrow. Today was supposed to be the last day. They didn't do it. So Roe v. Wade's probably going away tomorrow. We're a trigger state. We have laws in the book dating back to 1910. They've been amended a little bit, but it makes it a felony for a woman to have an abortion. Okay?
Yeah.
I will not prosecute women for exercising their reproductive rights. And this last legislature actually passed a new law that says that it's a felony for doctors to perform an abortion. And I'm not going to prosecute them either. I think that's important. I think everybody out there needs to know. In other parts of the country, there are some district attorneys who've come out because their states are doing some of the same things. But I think it's important, and hopefully the rest of the district attorneys around the state of Oklahoma will recognize that we don't need to make women second-class citizens just because they're exercising their reproductive rights. Okay?
Heather Cody says to tell you hello.
Thank you. I'm getting ready to run off and go to a concert downtown. So
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. We
think
appreciate
we're
your time.
Sure. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for squeezing us in.
No problem. Thank you.